Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one book, giant book, break it down section by section, talk about it, analyze it, have fun. I am Chad Post from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox, which officially released yesterday.
That's right. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. And we are also joined by Vanessa Stauffer. That's right. I just asked you, and I was like, froze up. From Biblioasis, who's the publisher of Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann, which is the book that we're reading for this 10th season of the 2-Month Review. So thank you for joining us, first of all.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
We've got this weird setup for people who are watching on YouTube where we do look like we're on CNN, and we're gonna have like some sort of crossfire debate about something. It could be about moms. Moms would be a good pro or anti-mom.
Possibly.
It could be more relevant of pro or anti-Booker decision.
Could
Whoa!
Be. Oh!
Coming out swinging.
Yeah, I am. So
what's the Booker?
Yeah. That's nice. Someone said something about the Nobel Prize on the day that happened. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. No. For anyone who does not know, the Booker Prize was given out on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Monday. Jesus.
Canadian Thanksgiving.
Was it really?
It was Canadian Thanksgiving. Yeah.
That's why they gave half of it to Canadian. It makes
That's
sense
right.
now.
That is what happened. It's a cornucopia.
Oh my God. So the Booker Prize is given out to two people, which is not supposed to happen at all, because they had been a ruling in 1992 when they split the prize that this would never happen again, and that the jury was given the mandate that you choose one winner alone, but this jury was like, nope, not possible. So the two winners were Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, and then the Testaments by Margaret Atwood. And this was a big hubbub on the Twitter because it seemed insulting to everyone involved in the Booker Prize for a variety of reasons. Margaret Atwood no one thinks that she really needs it. And it feels like a little bit like, well, okay, I don't know. I don't know. And then it's weird that Bernardine Evaristo is the first Black female to win the Booker Prize, but it's being split, which feels uncomfortable. And then also related to that, The Guardian had a headline that was something to the effect of like, Booker jury chooses like grand worldwide publishing event and obscure novel for winners. And it was like also insulting. Like everything about it felt insulting.
Yeah.
And most importantly, the book that should have won, or in some people's opinion, did not, which is unfortunate. Although Lucy had a great quote before the announcement, where I don't know how the whole thing works. I've never been to it. I don't really understand it. But it sounded like they interview everyone on a stage beforehand, and then she said something like, "Well, it's time for men to just shut up."
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a sort of lengthy publicity tour, several events leading up, and maybe it was the Sunday night event or the Saturday night event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was her. It was her response to one of I think the question was about, there have been repeated criticisms, statements from male reviewers that, well, this book is great, but it could have been shorter. And so that was her response. Well, it could have been, but men could also just shut up.
Yeah. That's what I love when we talk with Dan, and they did another edit of it, and there was like 30,000 words. I've got 30,000 more words I'd like to add into this. All right. So here's another book I'm putting in here, and y'all suck it if you don't like it. It's so good. I loved it.
That's actually, I actually brought this because, because I have questions for you, Vanessa, but this is the first way I knew that. So you wrote this, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So two things to build off of what you said, Brian. I looked at this galley. This is the galley, which is only 728 pages. So it's much shorter. And I tried to look at like where we were in this galley, and I couldn't find it, but we're definitely not on page 231. Like it's way earlier. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been added into the section that we've read so far for our version. But the way that I came across this book, I'd heard about it, I think from Dan or from maybe Publishers Weekly or Self-Awareness or something about how it was so big. And then I saw your copy, which I will read it because we have not read it on this podcast before. And this is a bit long, but it is well worth it. The fact that the author says the main plot of this book is the lioness and not the Ohio mother baking tarts tatine or worrying about everything. The fact that pollution, gun violence, ACLU, BLM, DAPL, KFC, MAGA, SJW, WMD, what we've done to animals, the fact that this book is so important, I don't even know how to write copy for it. The fact that my publisher calls it Moby Dick in the Kitchen. The fact that it's really called Ducks Newburyport. The fact that does anyone even read copy? The fact that what if they do and it just ruins the book for them for good? The fact that what good does worrying even do? The fact that she worries about that DuPont poisoned all the water and the polar bears are dying and teenage girls are obsessed with morning routine videos. The fact that some woman said you should tidy away all your books if they don't spark joy. The fact that what would she do with this one? The fact that it's so big. The fact that the Guardian, the Observer, and the Herald Scotland all name it a book to watch for in 2019. The fact that the Guardian calls it a, quote, wildly ambitious and righteously angry portrait of contemporary America. The fact that the Evening Standard says, quote, reading Ellmann is like finding bits of broken glass in your lollipop. The fact that doesn't sound very joyful. The fact that the Telegraph suspects Lucy Ellmann, quote, might be some sort of genius. The fact that the Guardian has a lot to say about Lucy Ellmann. The fact that they also say, quote, it's somehow hard not to be optimistic in the hands of a writer so angry and intelligent. The fact that maybe sometimes books should spark anger. The fact that V.S. Naipaul said, quote, if you want to write an important book, break the forms, break the forms. The fact that this book breaks the forms. The fact that John Metcalf said, quote, it's one of the most original and involving manuscripts I've read in years. The fact that then he said, quote, perhaps ever. The fact that at the end of Huck Finn, Huck reckoned he ought to light up for the territory, else his aunt would civilize him, and he couldn't stand that. The fact that it seems like that's what American novels have been about ever since, lighting out the territory, getting away from Aunt Sally. The fact that this novel has had about enough of that. The fact that running away and taking things that aren't yours and hating women has brought us to this point. The fact that Lucy Ellmann forces us to reckon with it. Mic drop.
Yes.
Well done. How did you tell us about how you came to Biblioasis and your background and how you came to write that?
Oh, that's a lengthy story.
Cool.
Well, I came to Biblioasis. I was I've described myself as a chronically underutilized university lecturer for a long time. I finished my doctorate in 2008 and was a lecturer then, and then found myself 10 years later. I was still a lecturer, and I saw an advertisement for a paid internship at this local publishing house called Biblioasis, and I thought, can I be a 39-year-old intern? And it turns out that I could. Nice. And then I could learn a lot of things very quickly with a very good teacher. So I found myself working mostly in marketing when I went on full time. And I remember the moment that I knew that we were considering this book by Lucy Ellmann because Dan mentioned it in a staff meeting. He said, well, I'm considering this book. Metcalf loves it. I think it's pretty good. It's 700 pages in a single sentence. And I went, I just groaned, like, no time for it. And then he said, it's by Lucy Ellmann. And I shrieked, right? I said, Lucy Ellmann! Because I had read her long ago when I was an undergrad. I had read Man or Mango and just had my life sort of rearranged by it.
Wow.
I didn't know you could do that sort of thing with a novel. So yeah.
What is Man or Mango like?
It's similar in that there's it's a first person narrator who is just sort of prickly in all the best ways and deeply funny and insecure and just tells the truth about how she feels all the time. Which is, I think, one of the marks of Lucy Ellmann's work. Not just her fiction, but we've seen some of her essays, her op-eds and editorials in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months as the book has rolled out. And one of the things that's, I think, most profound about her and her work is that she has absolutely no qualms about simply saying things how they are. Mm-hmm. So
that does come through in this quite a bit. It's really. It's really striking and really, really fun for that reason. Yeah, well, that's what I found. But were you intimidated by the idea of having to help market this book?
Oh yes. So
you've got Dan on one side saying like, if we don't sell 27,000 copies, this will bankrupt everything.
Oh, we didn't
make
know
that happen.
We hadn't even thought of that part yet.
Oh man.
Yeah, we thought about that after he came back from Winter Institute, and I believe you told him that. Oh, whoops.
That's funny. I remember you talking about this book when you came back from Winter Institute. I thought, oh shit, we're gonna have to do that on the podcast. Like that, a giant book that's one sentence, and then he read your copy that you. I was like, I'm actually down for that. That sounds cool. I'll give it a shot.
Good. Therefore, I sold the book. Good.
Yeah.
That's one copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It worked. Success.
It really is an incredible book, though. Like, it's, I wonder, like, I mean, you already knew her, which is exciting. I knew her name vaguely, but mostly through her dad, the James Joyce, because I read that book like last summer or the summer before. But I wasn't familiar with her fiction entirely. And like, it doesn't take many pages to just be like, this is a masterpiece. This is fantastic. And get everyone excited about it seems like it should be pretty easy. Was there anything related to that? So I don't know how many people that listen to this we have another podcast, the 3% podcast, that's a little bit more about book selling and publishing things. And this is more about the books itself. But as someone that was doing marketing, what kind of challenges or things did you see with this book that either made it kind of daunting or that you thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. We're going to be able to get a lot of good attention for this. I mean, it's fortuitous that certain things worked out, but I know that you probably had like a whole structure and a plan and idea of like what could happen for this book before any of the Booker Prize stuff happened.
Well, I think, our biggest fear and also what we saw as maybe one of our biggest opportunities was the size of it.
Yeah.
That it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. A single sentence novel is a hard sell, let alone one that is 700 pages and growing. But we did know that we had we do know there's a market for people who like big books, and so we knew we could lean on them. We knew that embedded in some of the criticisms we anticipated, the fact that big books are traditionally the domain of male writers, the sort of, right. I'll just say that, period. And we realized that this was something new, and that this was very much in its, I don't want to say it's politics because it's a political book, but in its execution, very much a feminist book. So it was remaking the form in an important way. And we knew also that, well, it was 2018 and perhaps people were ready to listen to women for longer periods of time. So we started kind of thinking through, some of the comparisons that came up immediately were Moby Dick. And I started thinking a lot about the form, having studied the novel, having studied American literature as a graduate student. And that was where the Huck Finn thing came from in the copy. But I started thinking about all the various things we could compare it to, that it sort of felt like a Ginsbergian howl without the rage. Well, why no rage? Well, because women aren't allowed to be angry. And this sort of led us into ways of talking about the book, primarily through the form for me anyway.
Interesting. Brian, I thought you were going to say something.
No, it's just, that's such an illuminating comment. I haven't even thought about that aspect of it because when you go back to like American literature, it's always kind of about, like you said, going out and discovering and, adventure. Like when you think of like Moby Dick, like being out on the waters, or Huck Finn going out into the world, and then like, in America, what is a woman allowed to, like? Well, no, you're not allowed to go out and be adventurous. You have to stay here and take care of stuff. So how do you have this narrative within that confinement that's been pressed upon someone? And this is a brilliant answer for that. It's wonderful. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that at all. Wow.
Vanessa, have you ever read the book Miss Mackintosh, My Darling?
No.
Okay, I have not either, but Delkey had published it years before I started working there, and I have both volumes. It's a 2-volume. They reprinted it, but it was as a 2-volume paperback that's giant too. I think it's like considered one of the longest books written by women in American writing, English writing. It's super, super long. I don't even know. It says it's 1,198 pages. That's not quite as long as I thought it was.
It's pretty long.
It's
That's
pretty
okay.
good, but
It's
it's
bad.
also like very stylistically like wild. Yeah, it's a good start. I mean, she could have added like 30,000 more words to it. It would have been she would have been really doing something. But it's a wildly like stylistically interesting book, and Margaret Young is very interesting like that. Here's just a description from Wikipedia so you guys have an idea. She described it as, quote, an exploration of the illusions, hallucinations, errors of judgment in individual lives, the central scene of the novel being an opium addict's paradise. But it seems like based on what you're saying, you might actually be intrigued by that book too.
I am. What year is that?
95 is when it was first published by 65 by Scribner's, and then I think 90 something was when Delkey rebrought it out.
Awesome.
I want to say 98, but I cannot remember.
I'm curious if like these reviewers that are saying, you know, does it have to be so long? Do we have to listen to her talk for so long? Like, do they have a similar experience when they're reading like Pynchon or, you know, or I don't like if they read Infinite Jest, for instance, or Moby Dick, or like I wonder if they have that same feeling, or if it is like a bias that they're having, because with the writing as good as this is and as wonderful as it reads, why would you want it to stop? Why do you want it to end? You know what I mean? Like I don't understand why that would be part of the review, and it almost makes me think like if you don't know how to talk about the book, you'll just address the physical size of it. It's a big book, so good luck getting through all like. Whatever. that would get so tired so fast.
Yeah.
So and I agree. Just shut up and read it, and you'll like it. You're gonna like it.
I mean, I think the sort of tendency towards prescriptive reviews is not restricted to books by women. So I mean, sure, I imagine some of those guys are exasperated by listening to a woman go on for so long, but some of them are just, you know, think they could write any book better, right? And we've all been in creative writing workshop. You know, I taught it for a long time, and I used to try to get students to, you know, we're not going to talk about how to fix the work. We're going to talk about how it works and why it works, which is what I hope a review will do. And even if it's not working the way you want it to try and engage with, well, what is this person doing instead? And that's why it's been so wonderful to see reviews like Parisa Gall's in the New York Times and Katie Waldman's in the New Yorker. You know, reviewers who have said, okay, well, it is very long and it's daunting, and well, this is why I think it's long. So that's nice to see.
So in this section that we're going to talk about, we were supposed to go from like 151 to 231 essentially. We find that we have like an action. There's like a thing happen, and I was legitimately taken aback. I was like so comfortable in the kitchen, everything was going along, and then she like left and had dentist appointment, which is crazy because dentist appointments are always crazy. But this thing that she's describing sounds horrifying to me. And then to give it away, spoiler, like she's driving away and she gets a flat tire and is stranded on the side of the road as it's snowing and nobody's stopping to help her. So we have like a real, like all of a sudden like a true action. And she's going out into the world and then becoming like stuck there.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this book is how, I mean, there is absolutely action happening underneath. It's an inverted book, right? Normally we see everyone performing their actions and the monologue's happening underneath. And this time we get the monologue up front. And it's so funny and surprising and exciting when she does kind of sneak in now she's going down the stairs, right? And you realize that she's saying, what does she say when she steps on her kid's truck in this section?
Djibouti.
Or
Aruba.
Yeah, I think she says Aruba at some point. I know she repeats it, says it again, and then there's another sentence or another phrase, and then you realize like she says something about the truck, and so like the action is just kind of filtering through.
Yeah, I've actually got that right in front of me. So it's on page 195. It says like massive Powerball jackpot cakes, reconstructive surgery cakes, gender reveal cakes, you name it. Yow, geez, Djibouti. The fact that I really have learned to say Djibouti now when I step on something. The fact that this time it's the caboose from Jake's metal train. The fact that Aruba works if it's even worse. The fact that Abby always wanted to go there. Aruba, not Djibouti. This is one of the ticks that I picked up on the most in this section. Is like the corrective, like explaining what the sentence was prior to that. So the it's the previous page too. Coke can, ring pulls, pop tabs, stay on tabs, dabs. The fact that children kept swallowing pop can tabs. but they finally started making them differently so they can stay behind the can. The tabs, not the children. Like that sort of like the X, not the Y, like to clarify the previous sentence comes up a lot in this part. And I really like that as like a narrative technique.
Yeah.
Silence from everyone.
So no, you start reading something, you have to start reading, you have to keep reading on.
Yeah.
Like it's intoxicating like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, the corrective is interesting, as I think several have pointed out that makes it not authentically a stream of consciousness because no one actually corrects themselves in their own monologue. I don't know that that's necessarily true, though, especially the way that this is a person who is so clearly performing an ideal. Like she's not allowed to swear, right? She's not allowed, at one point the word cock pops into her head and she goes, oh, I shouldn't think such things.
Yeah.
Yep.
That we don't know what this person's head is like, and if she's clearly anxious, she's clearly awkward in social interactions, who's to say she's not also in her own head with herself, which becomes a kind of interesting commentary about performative femininity. Ooh, I'm getting fancy now.
Yeah, that actually rings true to me too, in the sense that like it's almost as if the stream of consciousness that people would prefer to criticize that or say this isn't stream of consciousness is weird to me in some sense, because frequently I feel like if I'm thinking in my head, I feel like I'm talking to someone. Like in a lot of ways, like if I'm just letting thoughts go, I feel like I'm telling someone that. So I think that corrective thing would come up in other people's minds where you're like, no, I'm telling this, like I'm performing it or saying it. I do this a lot when I'm trying to figure out how to write posts for the website, of like running through my head, like how to say it. And then I'll have to change it to for some imaginary audience or whatever. But I think it's cool. I think it's a nice, I like it. I think it's funny a lot of times.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
This section, even with like all the horrible things, the flat tire, no one helping, the attempted rape, which is very, very, it's in there a few times and it's pretty intense. The hygienist, the sandblasting of the teeth, everything's like, there's like horrible things, but this section was incredibly funny to me. Everything about it. Like the teeth thing was actually one of my favorites. Son, 205. The fact that it costs $50 just to have Jake's teeth counted and $150 to have my teeth sandblasted to smithereens. The fact that I'm surprised I've still got any left. Teeth, not dollars. Your mouth, your money. The fact that I could have counted Jake's teeth myself if they really must be counted. The fact that my math isn't great, but I can do that. That's one of my favorite bits.
She really gets into her Julie and Julia hatred in this section too, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Have you watched that? So you guys have seen this movie?
I know of it. I haven't seen it.
I watched it on a date once with an ex-girlfriend, and I was like, this movie kind of sucks, except that I really like Amy Adams. Like I was like way into Amy Adams at that moment in time, and like that. I was like, okay, we can watch this movie. It's fine.
Is it the husband that likes the Amy Adams scene and she hates the Amy Adams scene?
No, I think they both hate it.
I think they both hate it.
They both hate it.
Yeah,
but they like
and I hate
Julia
it too.
Child.
Being There was the one where she hates that her husband likes being there and she can't stand Shirley MacLaine and got my movies mixed up. No, I feel like I was kind of got like, I might have like type 2 diabetes after reading some of this, because there was like that whole sweet, there's like, but is that not America? Just like sugar like pouring in every orifice of your body, like it just, it encapsulates the spirit of America in our times in such interesting and surprising ways that are like, they feel so obvious once you read them, because you can identify with just everything, like every part of it. And it's, I don't know, I'm continually speechless reading this. It's kind of like where you're saying how, I forgot what the turn of phrase you used about reading Man or Mango, where every now and then you come across a book where you just kind of, I don't know, for me, the last time I had this experience was reading The Invented Part by Rodrigo Frazan, where there's so much passion and force and the perfection of the execution, where it's just, you kind of like just lean back in your chair and like hold on to your forehead like every 10 or 20 minutes. And I'm having the same experience with this book. And I don't know, it's so necessary for me. It's so necessary because, again, like with the news cycle and what's happening in the world, you just sometimes feel like, what the hell are we doing here? Why? And then you read something like this and you realize there's still so much like beauty that can be put into the world, and it's wonderful to get something like this put on your lap every now and then, and it's such a gift. So thank you guys, and thank Lucy for putting this into the world. It's incredible.
Really is. Yeah, that list of like the Back to American Diet also includes on 167 like all that stuff, and that whole page is all those lists of puddings and things. God, wild. So I have a question for you, Brian, since you have kids. Well,
we're wrestling right now, actually.
So I know I need to find it, but there's a section where it has the different types of moms. Which I love.
What kind of mom?
We knew that was coming.
Yeah, we all know. That and the other movie that she talks about that I have seen is Witness. I remember watching Witness as like a kid when I was homesick from school one day and being like, this is weird. Like, I don't understand Amish things at all. And like, it's very, very strange at that point in time. But that part's pretty fun. But no, the types of moms, wherever they all strike so true. Like the sort of like the cheerleader mom. Where is this? I'm gonna find it. I think
that might be in the previous section.
No, it's in this one. I'm almost positive. Yeah,
the Witness thing. Yeah, I grew up in Lancaster County, and I was a kid when that movie was being filmed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like yet another way in which this person is my interior life. It's terrifying.
This book has everything in it. Like everything that you could think of just pops up. So the mom thing is on page 156, 157. So she goes into like talking about the fact I hate it when they leave the house, though, the fact that talking about her kids, the fact that I'm always scared they go off thinking I'm not very nice. Oh dear, because I am distant, I think, and scatterbrained and all, and busy sometimes, scattered, multitasking, superwoman, pride goes before her, but at least I'm not a spoiling mom like Jill Baines, who can't do discipline at all and just pampers her kids, who don't even like her much, I don't think. At least I'm not a pushy mom like Erica, though I like Erica when she's on her own, but she can just be normal for a change. And then it goes down to, at least I'm not a boasting mom like Davina Beebe, who thinks everybody wants to know every time one of her kids or one or other of her kids gets an A or shows musical, athletic, or STEM talent or whatever. WhatsApp, cyber charter school, the fact that kids never need math help from the police. So yes, those three types. I was like, oh yeah, I've been aware of these people. I've been surrounded by parents that are either the spoiling, the pushy, or the boasting types. And Brian, where do you put yourself?
I'm probably like the stressed out crazy mom, I guess. I don't know. between my partner's schedule and then me trying to do stuff from home and then realizing I'm probably failing at everything. Cool. That's more me. No, if anything, I'd probably be a boasting mom, but I try not to be like Davina Beebe. That's for sure.
Oh, mm-hmm.
What a name, Davina Beebe. Of course, that's the boasting mom.
Someone just suggested a marketing idea called having magnets, like the How I Feel Today magnets with a little frame to highlight your mood. You know how you have the magnets and there's like the square like, hey, I'm happy. It should be what mom am I today? And have
exactly.
But I have to say, the other day I was walking to the coffee shop, pushing Alex in a stroller, and there's like this new I don't know, super health food store thing that called Refresh that's supposed to provide healthiness. I don't know what it is. I've never been in there. They have a big sign out front that says vitamin B12 hangover shots. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck is B12. And then the next day I sit down and it's like, what is B12? The fact that I'm not sure that B12 is or if they're supposed to have it or not. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I feel you.
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me as nostalgic is the part about the Luden's cherry cough drops. I remember having box.
Oh, in the box.
Those are just candy. Those are not medicinal in the least. But we always had those. Be like, and then hopping like all these cherry candies. So silly.
And your tongue would just absolutely go numb. Like there was something wrong in there.
Like one of the little gifts in here that surprised me. It was actually on page 150, right before we started. She's done it a few times where she quotes the Nabokov Lolita picnic, comma, lightning.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I always, again, like, how do you teach writing? You have to, like, I don't know, pick some things and, you know, stick with it when you're teaching creative writing to new writers. And I'm always harping on, like, can we not have so much backstory? And I always point to this, that section in Nabokov, like, this is the backstory you get of his mother and how she dies. And it's picnic, comma, lightning. And that's it. That's the entirety of it. And so it's so fun seeing her put that in here. Several times. Just again, like, there's so many fun games and neat wordplay and juxtapositions, and
there's so many.
There's so many threads that then bear out. But there are also things that, I mean, this is a spoiler, but there are some things that are repeated and you never get to the bottom of them. Do you want to know one? I can tell you.
Yes.
But I don't want to spoil it. The bee in the barn at Breadloaf, which I kept, thinking, all right, what's the bee in the barn at Breadloaf? Because Breadloaf gets my attention. Having been a writerly person. And it's just there. It's just there. Nothing ever comes of it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
kind of amazing.
We were talking about the Breadloaf parts, like, ooh, I wonder if she actually went there and has, like, a little, this maybe some sort of a.
Unless, I mean, it's possible. I haven't finished I have not been all the way through the 30,000 word edition, so it may be explained. Maybe.
Oh.
I may have led you astray. So now it's even more exciting, eh?
No, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it. Yeah, the Breadloaf thing always stood out to me because I go there every summer, and that's great. And I know that big barn. I don't know about bees, but I know about the barn.
So I got very nervous about Breadloaf, given its previous reputation. I thought, oh no, what happened at Breadloaf? This is another one of these stories. But no, I think
oh my god!
I think it's just a bee. I think
the Breadloaf that I go to, the translation Breadloaf, is not the same as the August Breadloaf.
It's been reformed by a former classmate of mine, so don't worry.
Really? Wait, who's your former classmate?
Jennifer Groats. We were at University of Houston together.
That's who I'm going to meet in like 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, she teaches here. She's used to be our poetry editor, and I'm going to talk to her about everything, about catching up and everything. So yeah, that's funny, ironic. That little side note for anyone listening.
Small world.
Smallest of worlds. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, tell her good job with Breadloaf.
I will do that. Absolutely. I was gonna say this section is funny, but it also has some very dark, violent stuff in it too. Like aside from the rape, there's a part of like the it has something about like the guy who cuts his wife's parachute, and then she falls and like breaks all of her bones but lives. But like all like the there's so much of the violence of like 50% of the people that are shot are from domestic partner. Like, the fact that some husband in England purportedly sabotaged his wife's parachute before a jump, but she survived. The fact that she broke every bone in her body, but she survived. Which is interesting. But I think it's such a good balance between that horror. And one thing that you mentioned, Brian, of like how it's so American and like all the stuff that's going on, like to read this in light of that crazy ass Trump video of shooting all the people came out is like the most like shocking and like do you know what this is, Vanessa? You look like you don't know.
I
don't look it up. I don't encourage anyone to watch
blessedly
this.
insulated.
Just don't watch it. But I believe it was at a fundraiser. They showed this video supposedly that someone had made of like it was from a movie, right, Brian?
That's from the movie The Kingsman.
Yeah,
and there's a scene when this like spy guy, he's in a church, and then like they have some sort of thing that makes everybody go crazy and become violent, and he has to kill everybody in this like very stylized fashion. So they shooting and stabbing and fight, and so they put Trump's head on the guy that's killing everybody, and then they took kind of like in a meme kind of way, and then all the people he's killing are like CNN and Barack Obama and Black Lives Matter, and so he's going through like
he shoots Black Lives Matter like point blank through the head.
He grabs somebody in the head and shoots a Black Lives Matter logo through the head. Like it's horrific.
It's literally the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, wow. And so it's just I guess somebody thought it'd be funny to do that, or And it's like stabbing. I think he stabs Hillary Clinton in the throat. He throws Maxine Waters out a window. He breaks Barack Obama's back, slamming him into a pulpit, like, and then it cuts to the outside with like birds chirping. It just says on a sign, "The Church of Fake News," and then it goes back inside the church again. And there's more violence taking place.
Oh my God!
And it's like 2 minutes long. Like it's like so long.
Too long.
Like,
yeah.
It keeps going and going, and you're like, is this gonna stop?
Yeah.
It's wild.
See, there you go.
All of this stuff
That's my critique of it. Could we have made it shorter? Could it have been a little bit shorter, please? Does it have to be this? Does it have to be this long?
Does it have to be this gratuitously violent? Are we really playing anything? Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what. Yeah. All of her
That
stuff
is
with
one of
that,
the. Yeah.
This resonates. It all resonates so well.
Like I like this on like page 168 with the violence. The way she does violence with like in such an American way. On the middle of the page, it says, "I mean with a laugh the fact that a lot of boys tell girls to kill themselves, and it actually works. The fact that they keep shooting all the grizzlies in Yellowstone, the fact that they've been taken off the endangered list, the fact that we won't be content until we've killed absolutely everything, including ourselves. But I shouldn't think that way. Dear me, the fact that it's not good to be negative. PTA meeting."
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Like that juxtaposition of like, oh, I should be thinking like, oh, PTA meet like violence, PTA meetings, and every thought in between. Like that just, it just really hits home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets quite dark in places, and that's part of the kind of tremendous power of it, is that it goes from this in this section when she does begin to talk about the attempted rape, and she starts to give us more detail about what is the word for, I don't remember the word. The term for, the guy just loses it and kills his whole family because he doesn't want to be divorced. And those stories start coming back again and again and again. And she gets deeper and deeper into her location, into Ohio and the landscape, and the history of it, because she's a former history professor.
Right.
So she knows all these things, and she's living in the middle of them. And part of the question, I think, here is, what do you do with that knowledge? Lucy has said, well, she doesn't do anything, and this is her criticism of this narrator. But I think it's also one of the reasons this book has had so many readers, that it's so familiar, that sort of like helplessness. Like, yes, I know all these things, and now what am I doing about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did notice this section felt, for me reading, there's much more of like an undercurrent and like it's sexually charged as you're reading through this one compared to other parts. Because there was when she's making all the pies, there's the wordplay with pie and sexuality. I'm trying to think where actually
there's. Yeah, she also talks about the
I think
fact
it's on
that
180. Oh, go ahead.
She talks about the one that I was just looking at, 213, the fact that I wish Leo and I had sex some more. I do. The fact that I think our problem is neither of us is good at initiating. Like that comes up a few times. I mean, especially in relation to like her being on the side of the road, waiting for someone to help and being like, well, if I was like this attractive young person, someone would stop. And then she's like thinking about like, well, women over 40 are still women, guys. Yeah. The fact that, guys, women over 40 are still women. And I'll do one more and I'll go back to you, Brian. 214. The fact that I think a lot of middle-aged women are wasted because men have all these grand ideas about what we should all look like. The fact that it's just like a habit or something, reflex, Playboy. The fact that it's almost a form of elder abuse. Seniors, if you think about it. But you can't make people fall in love. The fact that you'd think not having to worry about pregnancy anymore with an older woman might be seen as a bonus. But then, of course, there are all the mood swings to deal with, the hot flashes too, and maybe plastic surgery, which is expensive.
And on the following page, she comes with her idea. Maybe people would stop if they thought she were attractive. How much time do I have left before I freeze to death? The fact that, do I have to write a sign or something? I am nubile. I am Kluchman. I'm sexually viable. Save my life. Right?
Oh man.
And then I think right after that too, she was like, "Oh, but wait, I'm freezing."
Yeah. I need to get in the car.
It's like I could totally nope, I'm freezing to death. Just kidding. Yeah. Or Dorothy Parker's husband left her for a younger woman. Dorothy Parker? Like, what? You're leaving Dorothy Parker for what? For why?
Exactly. I love that part too. I do think that one thing that I don't know, it strikes me as unique in a way, but I think it works really well in here is that she's like really in love with her husband. Like it's not like they're like I almost like half expect it to be like some sort of like discord or whatever, but instead she's like, no, he's really good. I really love him. He loves me. He treats me well. He's always like helping me and being nice, and it's like it's interesting. I don't know, like I feel like most books don't do that. Like under normal circumstances, it'd be like, oh, well, this has to have some sort of like he's an idiot and doesn't appreciate her, or that's part of her anger or something. Instead, it's like the opposite of that, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
You.
And then that's all going to change. You're going to tell me. You're like, yeah, wait till you get to page 700.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. You're safe with Leo.
read that first paragraph for her next book coming out. That was awesome. Did you see that?
No.
Somebody tweeted out the first paragraph of her next book.
Really?
And oh yeah, it's a banger. It's really good. Like, of course, the writing's incredible, but it's amazing. I'm on my phone, so I can't pull it up. But yeah, she leaned into I think it's time for men to end. It's kind of the. It's like, and the weird thing too, after reading that, I chuckled. I was like, cool, I cannot wait to read this book. But then I just read an article. It doesn't have very good science behind it just yet, but they're saying in high stressful times, women are giving birth to more women and not men. And so we're so as things become more stressful,
chromosome,
we're getting more women as things become more unstable, and God, are they getting more unstable? So yes, I guess we need to kind of realize perhaps the future is going to be female, whether we like it or not. So get with the program, boys.
Assuming we have a future.
Yeah.
Are you? Wait, I think you're talking about the Scum Manifesto.
Yes, was that not?
Yeah, that's not hers. That's but she bought it for. Yeah, she bought it for Galley Beggar Press.
Got it. Okay, got it.
And so they ran the first paragraph, which is life in the society being at best an utter bore, and no aspect of society being at all relevant to women. There remains to civic-minded, responsible, thrill-seeking females only to overthrow the government, eliminate the money system, institute complete automation, and destroy the male sex. Ironically, this author that we're trying to publish read part of this at her event in London.
Sorry, I totally.
Everything keeps coming back together. Everything's connected to this book somehow.
Yeah,
my fault. I apologize.
I mean, it's like 6 degrees of Lucy Ellmann now. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
Very true. I forget. There was one other thing that I thought of that was like important. I wanted to mention to you guys, but I can't think of what it would have been. No, I do. It was not important. It was for you. So with the advertisement for the Let Them Eat Cake, did you guys check this number or this the number at all?
Stop.
Because I'm tempted to call it and see what happens. But I really love that 8morecake@mom.com is the email address to order stuff. That's beautiful.
Shouldn't we? We should buy that domain, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
mom.com. Really slept on that.
We bought one yesterday. We bought. You would want to know this because we're doing the book together. But ontimeandwater.com we bought yesterday.
Oh, that is good to know. Thank you. Good work.
You're welcome.
We did want to put 100%. Like tear off strips on that flyer, so you could actually tear off the number.
That'd be super cool.
It is in color too, but we couldn't print it in color, tragically. But it does exist in a Word doc in all its full color glory.
That's wild.
It's so great.
It's so Word created too, with all those the symbols.
And I wasn't sure go ahead.
No, we thought about using it as our art cover, and we actually did a mock-up of just the cake flyer, but it looked a little too 8-bit. Is that the video game term?
Yeah. Interesting.
I looked up what a phaneropita. I'm not Greek. I apologize for the pronunciation. Cake, that very last cake. Mm-hmm. And the interesting tiny bit of history of that is it's actually made for this. I think it's like for the patron saint whose mother was a sinful mother that was mean to the poor. So it's actually a cake where the name has something to do with a sinful mother. So again, I don't know if it's the mom thing somehow getting weaved in there again, but it's just I went down a rabbit hole of moms again.
There you go.
Mom.com and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There for that. It's
like one of those John Donne poems.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like the shape of an altar when you
right.
Oh, George Herbert. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I should probably wrap this up, so I have to go see your former classmate. Do you have a favorite line from this section? Favorite line and or phrase?
I really am deeply tickled every time I read the section about the abominable snowmen and snow people, which is on 210.
Yes.
And she's stuck on the side of the road. It's winter in Ohio. She's got a flat tire. She thinks she sees a bear, but maybe it's the abominable snowman, which might be better. Then she starts thinking on this. The fact that if it's all one guy, where it's only ever one guy, he must be a real jet setter, abominable love miles, rushing across the globe to visit his abominable snow woman and abominable snow children, abominable snow people, snow mom. The fact that nobody ever seems to see an abominable snow mom nursing an abominable snow baby. The fact that I wonder if a litter of abominable snow children will be welcomed into our abominable school system, shooter drills, math class.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You got one, Bri?
I'll do a very brief Rochester connection since Chad and I are in Rochester. And one of the big figures for Rochester is Frederick Douglass is buried here on page 225. Western expansion. The fact that when Trump first heard about Frederick Douglass, he said, "Hire that guy." The fact that I wondered what position he had in mind for him.
that is good. I love that.
Which is one of those things that you think readers in 100 years are going to say, "Oh, he didn't say that. Oh, he did."
Yeah. I know.
Oh dear. Yeah.
There's kind of stuff in here that's like
that is not possible.
That's interesting too. Like this
great autobiography with big words. I bigly liked it.
Yeah, the Bigley thing I picked up on in here too. I mean, it's interesting, like how of the moment this book is, in the sense that like those 30,000 words that she added. I obviously don't know what they are, and I'm not going to compare it to this. But there's some things in here that feel like almost impossible for you guys to have had it in the book and printed. Like it seems like so fast, like it's so recent,
so stinking timely.
Yeah, it's that's kind of wild. The one that I was going to use is on 224, so right after that. The fact that I think middle-aged women aren't completely alone in the world because we look at each other. The fact that we check each other out, not from envy or competitiveness, from empathy. The fact that we look at each other kindly just to see how we're all faring or fading. The fact that I'm fading fast. I like that one too. So this is great. I don't know where we're supposed to go to next week, but I can probably find it. But I think it's probably to about, I don't know, 300 or something. But we will be back next week.
Way to finish strong. Way to finish strong, Chad. Wow.
I had it open and then it closed. I closed it. Season 10. There we go. Okay, so next week we are going to be covering pages 231 to 297. So not that long of a section comparatively to the other ones. And I think we have a guest lined up and all of that. Vanessa, thank you for coming on. It's very fun to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Again, congratulations on writing this copy. This is like the sort of thing that you can just like be like, I'm done. Now I need an intern to write the next copy because I won the game. I won copy.
I do need an intern.
Yeah, it's true. And it was amazing. Anyway, very cool. Well,
it's too fun.
Thank you again. And Brian, it's always good to talk to you. I'm sure we'll be in touch soon to celebrate your book. Everyone go buy Joy Time Killbox. You can get it from BOA, from your local bookstore, from any retailer that you want, and get Ducks Newburyport if you haven't already. But I suspect anyone watching this has. Yeah, at least two. Everyone needs to get two. One for themselves and one for their mom. We could probably end it there.